Welcome to the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, a weekly broadcast sponsored by CVC Success Group, hosted each week by industry speaker, coach, author, and educator Jerry Eisenhower. Our presentations are produced to assist business owners and managers in turning their business dreams into their business realities. And now, here is your host, Jerry Eisenhower.
And I want to welcome you to another episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. Believe it or not, this is episode number 89. That's right, 89. We've been at this a while. And again, the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network is sponsored by the CVC Success Group, where our mission is to provide the tools to make your business dreams into your business realities. Excuse me. Now today, I've got a special guest on here. I've got a special guest, and the reason he's special is because some of the things that he is utilizing in his own business are truly remarkable. So I've asked him to come on today to share some thoughts and processes about what he's using today in training his new people and how this is working out, not just for his new people, but for his existing staff members. So my guest today is a gentleman that comes from Houston, Texas, and his name is Lee Roff. The name of his company is Lords Chimney. And Lee started this company with his dad back a few years ago, and his dad retired recently, and the business is keeping on going on. Now, we're recording this in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis, so naturally, that's kind of taken up everybody's train of thoughts. Our concentration and everything seems to be on this all the time. But what we're going to share with you is going to be some methods for you to utilize going forward to put into play today and into the future for what we call the new next and the way that you're going to be training people as we come out of this to get a better return. So Lee, are you out there with me ready to rock and roll this morning, bud?
I'm ready, Jerry.
There you go. So Lee, the first thing I want to ask you is, if you look at the picture, you have attained the rank, the status of a CSI Master Chimney Sweep. And that's taken a lot of training to get there. And I'm very proud of you for being able to attain that. And I think you got a lot of self-satisfaction. So let's start out with the following. When did you start in business and how did you get started?
2004 is when we started. I actually was in an entrepreneurial program at University of Houston, and the chimney sweep business was my business plan. And during the implementation phase of the schooling, I implemented.
Really? Interesting. So Lee, let's go through a couple things. When you first started, I believe you attended the Chimney Sweep School in Indianapolis. Would that be correct? Could you give us a little bit about what you learned through that experience?
I learned a tremendous amount. Before that, I had learned from my father, who had learned from somebody else. So going to formal training really opened up my eyes as to what is technically correct. Because before that, I had only learned what my father had taught me.
Okay. So as you went through this, Lee, one of the things, because you are a client of CVC Success Group, and I know that one of your strengths is numbers and analysis of data and use of software to accumulate numbers that very few people look at in their business. What gave you this concentration on numbers that you have, and how do you use data that comes from your business and all types of numbers? How do you use that to build your company to move to the level you envision?
For me, Jerry, numbers are how I keep score. It's how you know if you have a good day or a bad day or a good year or a bad year. But primarily, I concentrate on KPIs, which are key performance indicators. And the important ones are booking rate when someone calls in, closing rate for guys out in the field, average tickets, and the amount they sell per opportunity. And that's how I determine if something's wrong without actually being out in the field to watch something going on. So it allows us to really focus on the business, on what the actual numbers are, and not just what an opinion is.
Right. And to use this, you have software, your customer, your customer management system, and this is a big part of what you do. And knowing you, I know that the software that you have is not an inexpensive software. You're paying a monthly fee for use of this based on the number of people that are using it. But how important is software to be able to pull this data from what's happening in your company?
It's really, really important, primarily because it saves me a ton of time and a ton of headache. Because before this, I would actually have spreadsheets and manually do all this stuff. Now with software, it does it for me automatically. So with a click of a button, I get all my numbers. It tracks how long each employee has been on each individual job. It tracks the actual closing rates with a click of a button. Now my employees actually want to know their numbers so that they can figure out the score of the game they just played. So it's really important because it saves me time and money, and it's basically taking a whole employee out of my office.
Right. And this software has the capability of recording all of the business calls that come in and out of your office. Am I correct?
Correct.
And if I'm not mistaken, you spend time and even hire experts at times to listen to the phone calls to coach your people to higher levels. And does that take a lot of time? Is that frustrating? What do you learn from listening to phone call recordings?
It does take time. That's definite. But listen to the actual call recordings. Like every day, I listen to the unbooked calls from the day before, and then I actually follow up on the people who did not book calls. And then you can book about 25% of those calls just with a follow up. So it's really important, and you actually figure out what's actually going on over the phone.
So Lee, let me ask you this. You've been very successful. You've got good profits, you've got high returns, you've got a reserve fund there of somewhat. Tell me, there was a day that you got in contact with me and you decided you needed coaching. What was the thing that told you that coaching would be a help to you in your business?
Jerry, basically, I needed somebody who knew more about the business than I did. I need someone who could help me technically, and I needed someone who I could roll some business ideas, which I constantly have, off of somebody who's been there before and may be able to tell me before it actually happens whether this may work or not, or what the pitfalls of each decision may be.
Okay. So has this been a relationship that has an ROI for you, which is a return on the investment that you invest into coaching each month?
Absolutely. And it's more, and some of it you can't even measure because it's somebody to talk to. Because occasionally, especially when you're running a business basically by yourself, it can be a really, really lonely place, and you have to make a lot of important decisions, and it's easy to question yourself. And it's really, really nice to be able to talk to somebody who can reassure you and also just verify that you made the right decisions.
So let me ask you this. Part of coaching is the coach holds the client accountable, where you say you're going to do something and we hold you accountable to what you're doing. How does that feel as a business owner to have an outsider hold you accountable? Is that important to a business owner?
For me, it's vital because if it's just me, it's real easy just to say I don't have time or I can't do it, or one little problem comes up, so obviously this is a bad idea. So someone outside who can hold you accountable is vital to making sure things actually get done. Otherwise, sometimes you can just get lazy.
So you feel like having that accountability partner is an important factor in your business success.
I think it's vital.
How do you feel when the coach tells you, Lee, you got to focus, you got to gain clarity in what you're doing? How do you take that, Lee?
I like it. I'm the one that always says Jerry's too nice. Um, so I like someone holding me accountable. It's always been part of my personality. It's how I was raised. And it's a way to take you to another level because if you always need someone to push you, at least I do. I don't know of people who push themselves to the highest degree without help.
Okay, so let's go into training because you've been utilizing our Basecamp online learning platform ever since we rolled it out as one of your client benefits. Am I correct?
Correct.
So the first thing I want to know is, what is your success with getting your people to take courses on their own, even when you are compensating them?
That's been hit and miss. I will assign classes. We pay them as if they were as a bonus for taking classes, as if it was an hourly event. But I will give classes, and people really do it hit and miss. They'll get on it for a little while, and then they'll get lazy and they won't do anything. And then it becomes an issue. It becomes a disciplinary issue, and it really was a pain.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You are a believer in having your people certified to do the job. Would that be a correct statement?
Absolutely.
Do you see that once one of your employees gets his certification, that he falls off the education bandwagon on his own, and it becomes a very real challenge to get them to take the courses, even when you are compensating them?
Correct. And I think part of that is because of the mistake that I made, which is the goal in their, I guess, in their career was to get certified, not just to learn. So once they got certified, they attained their goal, and then they relax like they've, climbed the highest peak.
Okay, so they're not understanding that certification is a minimum standard of competence. They don't get that part. Would that be correct?
That is correct. We're getting better at communicating that now.
Okay, so recently I came up and shared with you an idea that we called facilitated virtual training. And you actually started doing this with your new hires, where you facilitated the content that we provided. And the new employees actually sat taking the classes. And what you do in a facilitated format such as this, you would play the content, then stop it, and then go into a discussion to translate this into where it applies in your market. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes, it is.
Okay. But as we face this, what we found out was we could bring people to get to that certification level much faster. Would you agree with that statement?
Correct.
Okay. So, but then our challenge was, how do we continue the training process that you highly regard as a part of your success? And that was a challenge to us. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then we came up with facilitated virtual training with your group of people. And in facilitated virtual training, what you were doing was bringing your people together into your training area. You would play the training content. You've been using our daily training tidbits in your morning meetings every day until the COVID-19 crisis struck. And then we had to do thinking of new ways to do this. But in a face-to-face format, using the facilitated virtual training process, where you're using the training content that we produce for you that can be pulled right up into your office. How did that work as far as getting training out in the small pieces like we do with the daily training tidbits, which are, so you're aware, these are trainings that are under 7 minutes. They deal with one specific subject matter. So how did this work up until the COVID-19 crisis, Lee?
It was awesome because I think people will absorb content in smaller pieces a lot better than a 4 or 5 hour, 8 hour training. So we were able to not only, it's a small content, but we're picking something that was extremely relevant to something that had happened recently, so that we could have discussions about it, we could ask questions about it, and I truly believe that it really expanded their knowledge, just because little chunks is better than huge amounts of information.
Okay. And as you went through these daily trials and tribulations of a mistake in the field, it could have been covered in their certification, but it just passed over their memories. And did you request tidbits done for you that would address the issues of the field that y'all could then use in your morning meetings.
Absolutely. When we would have a problem that was not already addressed in the current tidbit training system, with it, Jerry would make us one, or one of his other coaches would make us one, so that we had something that really reinforced what we were currently going through and where we needed to go in the future.
Okay, so as you went through this, we recognized one of the issues was Lee. And this is not nothing against Lee, but you started assigning a member of your company to conduct your morning meetings and conduct this facilitated training with the daily training tidbits. Am I correct?
Correct.
Did this give you better results than when you did it yourself?
I think so. I think getting the message from another person, it's like when your parents constantly tell you something and then someone outside of your family shows up and says the exact same thing. Magically, they're brilliant. So
Okay.
having a secondary person say the exact same things was very valuable.
By having this other person conduct this training and have to prepare for it, did that make them a better equipped technician by doing the facilitated training?
Absolutely. Just watching them go through the tidbits, because a lot of times they were picking the tidbits themselves. So they had to go through 10 or 15 tidbits almost daily just to find the one that they wanted to use. So that was valuable unto itself.
Okay, great. So in the middle of March of this year, Lee, you, like every business owner across the country, faced the challenge of the COVID-19 crisis, where we've had to change our processes, our systems, and we're coming up with new methods every day of what we're going to do and what we call the new next. And let's face some of the challenges. You no longer work from your office, you work for your home. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So, as a business owner and a manager of people, we started putting together new processes of how to do the facilitated virtual training in a virtual means where your people were actually tuning in to your training on a daily basis over the last week or so. Would that be true?
Absolutely.
So what we're doing here is you are setting this up on a Zoom call as the media that you use. And you have asked your people to step up to the plate and become this facilitator of training. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes, sir.
So in this process that we have designed and you have taken a lead on, as you often do, you're doing something completely new, which is facilitated virtual training. And in this, you're having training meetings via Zoom using the content that we produce on our education platform, the CVC Basecamp. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in this, number one, are your people attending this class at this time as we plan to?
Yes, actually, attendance has been really good. Some of the people are not even required to be there, are actually showing up to these classes. So attendance has not been a problem at all.
Right. So what you're also doing is you're asking for your men and ladies to step up to the plate to become this facilitator of training. Am I correct?
Correct.
So let's take an example. Earlier this week, you did a training program on pressures. You used the course that's on our platform about training about pressures. And this course had been available to all of your men prior to this, and some had watched it, some had not. Am I correct?
Correct.
The day that you did this facilitated virtual training on pressures, where where your facilitator played the content and stopped it periodically, like every 3 to 5 minutes, and discussed the learning point that had just been used, and then he discussed this in what we call Houston business and Lords Chimney's needs. He addressed the pressure issues strictly from what it would appear in Houston, Texas, correct?
Yes, sir.
is cooling or heating more important to a Houston customer?
Definitely cooling.
Let's tell people that, when you go, how many wood stoves do you see in Houston, Texas, Lee?
I've seen 2 in 15 years.
Okay. And do your people commonly pull inserts and service chimneys? I have a lot of glazed creosote from slow burning wood burning stoves and inserts.
We don't have any wood burning stoves and very few inserts. Our insert puller has been used once in 15 years.
Okay. So if somebody you want to sell that insert puller, Lee?
I could,
Okay.
but as soon as I sell it, I'll need it, of course.
Right. So after your people attended this course in a facilitated mode via virtual means using our platform, one of your people conducting the training, you're sitting there as an observer, and you also inject into it to make points that you're trying to make. How do you feel? How successful was that training, and how high do you think your men moved up in that one day of training on pressures? Are they more familiar with trace pressures and diagnostics and analysis of pressure issues at this point?
Absolutely. Most of my people had taken the class before, but now, especially with the facilitated learning, it took them to a totally new level just because they were able to ask questions. The live training we were able to apply it to our current situation as far as touchless service. We were able to apply it to our market because our market being sort of subtropic is very different than many other markets. So being able to apply through the virtual training actually what's going on in the class to our situation, our business, our market is immensely useful.
Okay, so let's go a little deeper. Lee, in Houston, Texas, how many people use fuel oil?
0.
How many people have a masonry chimney that is venting their heating system or their domestic hot water heating? How many use a masonry chimney in Houston, Texas to vent those appliances?
0. They're all in the attic.
Okay, so what you have is a unique warm weather chimney service business. Would that be correct?
Correct.
How important is water entry issues to what you do in your business and diagnostics of masonry chimneys and factory built chases for water entry?
That is the majority of our business.
Okay.
Everything starts and stops with that.
Okay. So if we look at it, you're not the normal chimney sweep that's going out and doing chimney sweeping on for customers that have wood stoves, those type of things. Most of your business is probably concentrated from a need to resolve a problem. And as such, your people have to become problem solvers for your customers. Would that be correct?
Absolutely.
So the facilitated virtual training that you're doing, do you feel this is better equipping them to do this problem solving and able to discuss this in a way that your customer can understand it?
Sure. And I'm able to put my employees in situations where they have to prove that they can do the problem solving, and I can actually ask them questions so that they can prove that they can put things into the correct terms and take care of the customer correctly.
Okay. So Lee, as you move forward in business, and right now we're in this COVID-19 crisis, we're very uncertain about the future, but we know that this will flatten out and that there is bright days ahead. How important is this facilitated virtual training for you going into the future to build your business and build your team of rock stars?
It's very important. It's a way to, it's a very easy way for me or one of my employees to teach a class because the hard part, which is putting the content together, is already done. So even one of my employees, after watching a course, they just watch a course once, they can basically teach a class and use their experience to help their other employees to actually progress in their careers. And I think it sticks better in their head this way.
Okay. So Do you see that the use of the facilitated process will greatly exceed the simple assignment of courses and go learn, where the comprehension is not done and the retainage of the information is not happening?
I think you need both, Jerry, because there is a time and a place for being able to take a class when you need it on demand. But the facilitated learning is much more effective, partially because all your employees are throwing in things and adding and asking questions. That is a lot more effective. But you still need the on-demand learning situation so that someone could watch a class on a weekend or something like that.
Okay. So Lee, one of the words that you told me a couple weeks ago was, you said the following: Jerry, we need a playbook. We need a playbook of how to navigate through this chaos and how we're going to move into the new next. Was that an accurate, did I quote you accurately on that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So is facilitated virtual training part of this playbook for the future for you?
Absolutely. It's a part of the future even after this. It's extremely effective, and it allows me to give people leadership opportunities so that I can see how they react to those.
Okay. So Lee, we're going to end this podcast in a minute. Hopefully, a lot of people are going to be listening to what you're saying. And I'll be honest with you, you need to, because Lee is sharing with you proven wisdom with track results. Remember, Lee tracks everything. He tracks the return on the investment for people. He does, when it's hiring, he hires experts to do his hiring, to do his searching. He does disc assessment of his new people. He does color code assessment, trying to find the right people. So as this goes forward, Lee, and you have an opportunity to offer your advice to your colleagues in the industry today, many of them are going to be depressed because maybe they lost out on that roulette wheel of the PPP. And I think you can understand that because, of your own experience of what it
Absolutely.
feels like. Right now, you're having to make decisions in a business that are not what you ever looked forward to. So based on all this, if you could speak to someone and give them hope and a process for the future, what would you tell them, Lee?
I would tell them that long term, this whole situation is going to be a really good thing. It's stress testing every part of your business, all your employees. You're figuring out who's on your team, who's not on your team, what systems work, what systems don't work. It's making you more efficient. I used the analogy the other day. It's like gold mining, where the old guys got big nuggets out, and now we're trying to get the fine gold dust. So it's making you more efficient. So once this is all over and we get into the new next, we're going to be better companies because of this, because it has made us much more efficient and sort of stress test our systems and our people.
Okay. Well, Lee, I want to appreciate you joining us today. This is a challenging time for everyone. The words you have shared, I think, will help people. And if you're listening to this, listen to what Lee's saying. Lee, would you mind sharing your email address if anyone has questions for you on how you're doing these type of things? Because I know you are a very sharing individual. So if someone, I don't want to give out your phone number because I don't want, it's kind of hard to just deal with these calls out of the blue. But would you share your email address with the listeners?
Sure. It's Lee, L-E-E, at lordschimney.com, L-O-R-D-S, chimney.com.
Okay. That is Lee, L-E-E, at lordschimney.com. So one final question, Lee. Are you moving into virtual assessment and ability to work with your customers in virtual means?
Absolutely. I think that's going to be essential for the future, whether it be an employee outside of a customer's house and virtually talking to a customer inside the house, or it's someone at their home or in the office talking to a customer and looking at the fireplace through virtual means. I think that's going to be the future, and it allows us, especially in our market, because we have a really large market, to kind of verify the customer is serious before we go out to a call.
Yes, got it. So, folks, if you're listening to this, you know how to reach out to Lee. And also to let you know, on Thursday, April the 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we are doing free training webinars for the industry. On Thursday, April the 30th, I will be presenting, along with my friend and colleague, Tom Urban, an entire process of how to apply virtual communications, virtual sales processes, virtual assessment processes that day. So these webinars are free. All you have to do is sign up for them. Email me, Jerry at cbcsuccessgroup.com. If you're not on our mailing list, follow our Facebook pages, our social media. If you're not on our email address list, let me know. We'll get you added, because we produce training 4 days a week right now for the industry via webinar. And on Mondays, we do retail sales training. On Wednesday, we do gas training. On Thursdays, we do chimney training. Friday, we do office training. Lee, you and many of your people have participated in these open webinars since we started doing them. Am I correct?
Correct.
How valuable have these been for your people?
They've been very valuable, partially because some of these classes my people have already taken. We did facilitate learning when they were new. But going through and doing refreshers and hearing other people's reactions from other parts of the country to the training has been really, really valuable.
Okay. So, well, Lee, again, I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for sharing some of your secret sauce and methods and processes that people can use, not just in these challenging times, but when we come out of this and we can focus back into how do we grow the business? How do we get to our dreams? How are we going to get there? And Lee Roff is a guy that has, ever since this crisis has hit, he has spent countless hours of brainstorming ideas, and sometimes a matter of getting focused and not letting it take the best of him there. So listen to what's here. There's been a lot of value offered. So I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. This is episode number 89, and my friend and colleague and client Lee Roff has shared with you today some tremendous gold nuggets for you to consider in your own business. Join us every week. Once again, our podcasts are sponsored by the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. Check us out. Attend our free webinars. Look at our online training content at the CBC Base Camp. It can be the base camp for you to build your training to a higher level, and consider the use of facilitated virtual training. And with that, I bid you farewell. It's been an honor, it's been a privilege, and it's been a pleasure for you to join Lee and myself today. Talk to you on the next episode or on the next webinar we do. We look forward to your participation.
Thanks for joining us here each week at the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, sponsored by CVC Success Group, providing you the coaching and educational outreach services you need to move to your dream destination in business and in life.